Hello, friends. Welcome to Science Talk. I'm your host, Jim Massa. Chemical found in 1,000 processed foods may harm the immune system. The chemical called TBHQ showed potentially harmful effects in studies conducted in animals and in lab dishes. So here's an example of processed food. I guess it's what? Cheese doughs, cheese, whatever the hell they are, cheese crackers. I don't eat that stuff. Two chemicals that are commonly found in processed foods may harm the immune system, according to a new study. The chemicals are the preservative butyl hydroquinone, TBHQ, found in Kellogg's Pop-Tarts, Cheez-Its, I guess that's what those are, and more than 1,000 other food types, and per and polyfluoroalkyl substances, PFAS, a group of chemicals that can leach into food from packaging. According to the study authors from the Environmental Working Group, a health-focused nonprofit. Interesting they call it a pandemic. The pandemic has focused public and scientific attention on environmental factors that can impact the human system, said author Olga Nydenko, who is the vice president for EWG, for scientific investigators. Oh, okay, the pandemic is the coronavirus. Before the pandemic, chemicals that may harm the immune system's defense against infection or cancer did not receive sufficient attention from public health agencies. To protect public health, this must change. A study published March 24th in the International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health found that these chemicals showed potentially harmful effects on the immune system in studies conducted in animals and in lab dishes. However, results from these types of studies don't always translate to humans, so the new study cannot prove that these chemicals harm the immune system in people. Maybe not yet, but chances are probably do. Nevertheless, the findings are enough to warrant concern, according to Dr. Kenneth Spaeth, a specialist in occupational environmental medicine at Northwell Health in Great Neck, New York. Products that this particular study has looked at are obviously very popular, widely used food products. That becomes a key element because obviously when exposure happens, the broader the exposure, the greater the chance of harm to result. And there are 50 new environmental chemicals detected in people. So Dr. Spaeth added that there have been historically a number of health and safety issues that result from food contaminants and food additives. Some of these chemicals are there by quote-unquote design because they're directly added to food, but others arise from the breakdown of other chemicals, and some, like PFAS, can enter food through packaging. It's important for those reasons to ensure as best that the products we're using, the food we are eating, are assessed for any potential hazards. Study authors also said further testing of these chemicals and their potentially toxic effects should be a priority for research and called on the US FDA to review the latest science on TBHQ and other food additives. In a statement to Live Science, Kellogg spokesperson Chris Boehner, said, providing safe, delicious, quality food for consumers is our top priority. TBHQ is a common antioxidant approved for safe use by the FDA that many companies use in numerous products to help protect food's flavor and freshness. Well, FDA may need to revisit the safety of those substances. EWG researchers analyzed data from the EPA's Toxicity Forecaster, ToxCast program, which uses automation to screen large numbers of chemicals for their effects on cells in lab dishes and on proteins in test tubes. They wanted to test how well the program could predict chemicals' potential harm to the immune system. They analyzed the ToxCast data to determine how the chemicals that are most commonly added to or end up in food, such as TB, HQ, PFAS affect genes and proteins related to immune function. The researchers reviewed the scientific literature to see whether studies have reported that a given chemical affected the immune system. For TBHQ, the results of the ToxCast tests and literature review both indicated the chemical affects the immune system. The ToxCast tests indicated that TBHQ affects proteins such as chemokines and cytokines that coordinate the immune system response to pathogens. One of the issues found with the coronavirus, for example, was that sometimes it induced a cytokine storm, which basically then caused the immune system to be overwhelmed, and then the person ultimately dying as a result of the virus overwhelming the immune system. It's hard to predict from ToxCast data alone whether those effects might be harmful to the immune system in animals or humans. Study author and EWG toxicologist Alexis Temkin said. Yet, according to the literature review, animal studies have found that TBHQ was associated with changes in immune function and immunomodulation, which is the turning up or down of the immune response. As for PFAS, both animal and epidemiological studies suggest that these chemicals can be toxic to the immune system. Higher PFAS levels in people have been associated with lower antibody production in response to vaccinations. Think coronavirus vaccines. For example, in 2013, a 2013 study in the Journal of Immunotoxicology reported that children who were exposed to higher levels of PFAS chemicals in utero had lower antibody production in response to childhood vaccinations, such as measles, polio, etc. Yet the ToxCast data do not reveal the immune system effects of PFAS. For example, according to the ToxCast test, PFOA, a type of PFAS that epidemiological studies indicate may suppress the human immune system, weakly affected just 1 out of 19 immune system molecules tested. Based on the studies involving TBHQ, the researchers concluded that ToxCast can identify molecules that pose risks to the immune system, but ToxCast's failure to flag PFAS chemicals as harmful to the immune system does not mean they are safe. Rather, it points to limitations of the screening. FDA approved TBHQ decades ago. Well, basically saying the chemicals effect on the immune system went mostly under the radar. This, of course, what happens as you gain new knowledge, new technology. So basically, this needs to be revisited as to whether TBHQ should continue to be allowed. Based on what I'm seeing here, probably not. Our research shows how important it is that the FDA take a second look at these ingredients and test all food chemicals for safety. The results of this study and others like it put consumers in a difficult position, as it can be virtually impossible to know whether certain chemicals are in food products. Not all chemicals found in food are listed as ingredients, because some of the chemicals, like PFAS, are not direct additives. So as we learn more about contaminants, for those that are shown to be posing health risks, the consumer is left in a bind because there may be knowledge of potential harm, but not enough information for consumers to really make choices in real time as you're walking down the aisle. Okay, a couple of things I wish to comment on what we just discussed. But a lot of the chemicals are not allowed in other countries. For example, okay, you buy a loaf of bread. There are preservatives added to the loaf of bread. That's why it lasts for a long time. You go to a lot of places in Europe, there are no such additives, and unless the bread is consumed within 3 to 5 days, a week at most, it goes bad, which is fine. Just like I discussed in my nanoplastic video, how these nanoparticles are getting in our bodies. They're getting into our here's the endocrine system again. They're getting into our endocrine glands. They're messing up our immunity, and are also messing up our metabolism, and is a major factor in, especially for people who have certain genetic, physiological, genetic predisposition to certain physiological, biochemical pathways, is a major reason why a lot of people are obese, myself included, even though I'm basically a vegetarian. And I don't eat prepackaged stuff. I don't eat Cheez-Its and cereals and things like that. So there's a lot of stuff that is put into U.S. food, or even a process of how U.S. food is created, that are banned elsewhere. This is, in my opinion, is a major reason why so many Americans are overweight to obese. It's because of the crap that we're literally being poisoned with because of mass food production. More than 50 new environmental chemicals detected in people. Chemicals discovered in a study of pregnant women and their newborns. Researchers have detected more than 50 new environmental chemicals that could be found in the bodies. Little is known about these chemicals. I'm just going to briefly buzz through this. I'm going to include the URL link to the original story we just discussed. As you saw, I clicked on that link there, so you can click on that link as well to gain access to this article. And they're basically discussing PFAS here. So that's what's going on here. So, they looked at what happened with the pregnant woman. They looked at the blood samples using what's called high-resolution mass spectrometry. That basically involves determining different masses of compounds. Mass spectrometry is how we identify elements and compounds and substances and so on. So they're basically able to look at the chemicals present in blood samples from the mothers and their newborn infants. The researchers identified 109 chemicals in both the maternal cord blood samples, umbilical, right, including 55 that have never been found in people before. Others detected in samples, such as phthalates, have previously been found in humans and been linked to adverse health effects such as reproductive problems. There's the PFOA and the PFOS. PFOA was mentioned in the other articles. So basically, this is a concern. This is a concern of all these chemicals that we're being exposed to, and a lot of it we're being exposed to without our knowledge. We're ingesting it. Our bodies are absorbing it, and it's causing a myriad of health problems. So you can actually do something about this. You can write to your representatives in the House and in the Senate and have them investigate this stuff and have them impose new guidelines, new restrictions. Have the FDA give them the resources to evaluate these in updated information, reevaluation of the safety of all these compounds, and if need be, have them banned. I think a lot of these things should be banned. So, so between the chemicals we're being exposed to, the nanoplastics we are ingesting, we are, you can try to eat healthily, as I do, and you still end up being poisoned literally to death. This is unacceptable. I'm sorry. It just is. You don't see a lot of obese Europeans, for example. A couple of times I've traveled to Europe, having basically the same diet I eat there as I do here, with the same level of activity, taking long walks. When I was there, I was losing weight. I come back here and the weight immediately goes back on. So, wanted to bring this to your attention. Consider this as a follow-up of a different sort to my nanoplastic recent video I did. But, wanted to bring, because we should be concerned about what we're putting in our bodies we make our choices, but then there's the materials we don't know about that we're inadvertently putting in our bodies that can cause us harm. So I want to bring this to your attention so that maybe we can put pressure on officials, etc., and other people, powers that be, that can do something about this to have more regulation. The answer is more regulation, not less regulation. Not just here, but in a lot of things. So, as I said, want to bring this to your attention. Thank you for your time. Hello, folks. This is Jim here with Science Talk, asking you to please subscribe to my channel and to inform others of my channel and of the work that I do. Please share to social media platforms that you use. Also, as a reminder, don't forget to click the bell so that you know when I load up more videos. Finally, I ask that you support the work that I do by becoming a patron at patreon.com. Details in the description box below. Thank you for your support.